back after a long time to do some iRacing content. So get right into qualifying of GT3 Rainmaster at Watkins Glen. This is the last race of the series that I did of the week. And this is my second qualifying attempt, or my second lap at least, because the first one I ran off the track just a little bit. So this track, although at first it took a little getting used to in the wet, it really wasn't too difficult. I'm not setting super quick lap times, but comparatively, especially in this lobby, or the strength of field, it's pretty decent. So there are a few spots you want to avoid, like through this corner when you're coming back to the uphill in the boot. You don't want to be on the inside, very inside, or the very outside. The very outside, as the normal racing line, will cause a lot of problems. Mainly when you're downshifting in the braking zone, it'll slide the car, just kick the car straight out of the corner. And I will struggle with that. Not really in this race, but in previous ones I have. Because it's just sometimes hard to remember. But this track, the wet racing line, is very easy to follow, I think. So then coming up out of the boot, that's the next hardest corner. Was just to come out of the boot. It always is, even in the dry. I usually have trouble with it, but as long as you take the right line, I'm not even too sure what the right line actually is through that corner anyway, so I struggle with it just a little bit. But my qualifying is good enough to be put on the front row in P2. Then I have the orange McLaren in front, orange McLaren behind, a Corvette also behind, and then keep note on that black McLaren. He'll come back into the picture pretty soon. But off the start, I don't get a very good start. I get passed by the two cars on the inside. Black McLaren just about can get ahead of me. Car on my outside can't pass me. The leader just goes straight wide through turn one. Probably not a slowdown, I don't know. Then right there, I hit the back of McLaren because I couldn't see him. So that was a 4X. And that was my only instant points the entire race, was because of that. So coming up into the bus stop chicane, I'm right behind the McLaren. There's a Porsche right behind me trying to pass me. Up front, they almost went too wide. They kind of did go too wide. I'm just trying to fend off that Porsche behind me, because he already tried to show his nose down the inside of the long back straightaway. So coming now into the boot, I'm 6/10 behind the McLaren in front, 5/10 in front of the Porsche. So coming to the tricky corner, you'll notice the line of the McLaren and the Corvette. And the Porsche. The Porsche took it too inside, then the McLaren and the Corvette took way too wide. The Corvette, as you can see, is now in the wall. The McLaren was able to hang on to it because he, I think, just slowed a little bit more. But I was able to just barely get side by side with him. And coming out of the boot, I do manage to pull ahead. But now, getting back into the main part of the circuit, I'm pulling just a small half-second or so gap. The leader in front is just building time. I will not see him. After a few laps, you won't see him again. He just pulls a huge lead and wins. It was a good, deserving win from him. He actually won the previous race of the series I was in as well. And you can see I'm just barely under 2K. I'd been up in 2K a little bit, way back down. But now I'm starting to build up a little consistency in iRating, just keeping it up. My safety rating is a bit of a problem. I would really like it to be higher. preferably B class, but it's fine. On the backstretch, the McLaren is pulling side by side with me into the chicane. Tries to make a move, doesn't work. We go side by side through it. He takes a worse line because he had to stick to the dry line, which doesn't work very well in the wet. Through the carousel, I pull just back ahead of him again, because I think the McLaren does have a little straight line speed advantage on the Porsche. This car is not super fast on the straight, but it does corner maybe just a little better. Now, I wouldn't go trusting that device for like your endurance races or stuff, but just at least in a situation like this, it seems like he has a little more speed. But I think I do actually have a slightly better line on the track than him, so it kind of evens itself out. And I apologize for such a long gap. I just haven't really been racing a ton and not too many good races. And I was also just gone for a week, so I feel it might be time to just use the last race I did before I left. The McLaren was able, unfortunately, to get past me. But we're about the same pace. I do think I am faster, but at least right now he is. And then now the BMW behind me, he'll show himself a little bit and then disappear. At some point throughout the race, there was an incident involving the BMW, and I pulled big gap to them. And I am gaining, I think, just a little bit on the McLaren, but he is still pretty quick. I have a pretty good line through that chicane, so I'm able to not really gain a ton, but I didn't really lose anything. Just kind of stay even. Now that corner of the carousel is, I think, kind of tricky to not get off track, because it's really hard to not do that. So all you have to do is dip one tire just over that white line and then off track. And you got to be careful in touching the white line, because that can really unsettle the car. And then the McLaren into that to the sort of uphill carousel, I guess. Didn't take the right line, and then just got loose. I'm able to get by him. Now, with 2 seconds, the car behind, and 8 seconds, the car in front. And the car in front in P1 is setting all kinds of crazy lap times. Like, I'm not really anywhere close at this point. I'm lapping 4 seconds slower. But I will end up getting my pace down. I was never quite able to set 56s, but I could set a low 57. I don't actually believe I did that in this race, but I was able to do it in races prior. And now the car behind number 17 is picking up his pace just ever so slightly, and is now just under 1 second, or just above 1 second behind. The McLaren behind that was up with me is now behind BMW, kind of struggling. So I'm not too sure if he actually hit the wall and got a little bit of damage or what. But he wasn't nearly at the same pace that he was before. And the leader now at this point is 9.5 seconds in front, pulling even bigger gap. And because this race is just about halfway done, there's not a whole lot of time for me to catch up, because I would have to start pulling off crazy laps. And at that point, I don't really think I could. So I don't know why I started going outside in that corner and cutting back across. That can also unsettle the car and slide you out of the corner. But I did manage to keep it right in line. Now you got to be pretty aware of the puddles on this track, because the weird elevation, some of the corners being somewhat banked, it'll pool down at the apex. So while some tracks the racing line might include hitting the apex, this track, not really. Then that last corner, you have to be really careful on the outside by the curb as you come out of the boot, because it's also pretty easy to just slide and bog the RPM of the car down. And the final corner, it can happen as well. I'm still unsure why that happens, but it just does. And now you might notice that the McLaren and the BMW are not in the same positions they were and are farther back. At some point in that lap, they hit each other or overshot a corner. I'm betting it was right before the uphill carousel that they just slid right off, because they both had kind of been making a mistake in that corner throughout the entire race. But I didn't take, and then on lap 5, chicane didn't go super great. That was not by far the best as I took it throughout the race, but still just well enough where the car behind isn't really gaining, and then the car in front is still pulling his 12-second gap on me, and I will not catch him. He ends up putting like 17 seconds on me, I think, maybe 20. Then the car behind, I believe it's a Lamborghini, gets closer than he is now, but not meaningful distance. I do apologize about the FPS in this video. It gets a little laggy in the rain, but it's not too bad when I'm by myself. It's really only in the pack. And luckily this race, I had enough experience on the track in these conditions that I wasn't sliding out of the last corner. So I did do that a few times. I actually slid out and blew my engine up in one race. So I just lost the car coming into the last corner. Then we're just going to skip ahead to the final lap because it was just about the same. And P1 does have a little moment in actually the right-hand carousel the lap before. Then it gets it down to 7 seconds. Unfortunately, it didn't really close too much after that, and still maintaining about an 11-second gap to the cars behind. And I almost gotten off track coming out of the bus stop because I got just a little bit too wide. At this point, it's the last lap, so there's not too much I can do. I'm kind of just driving a little easy, not trying to go super quick. I was able to get my lap times down to 57s. Not great 57s. It should be lower, but at this point it doesn't really matter, because I wouldn't have caught P1 anyway. But I did join yesterday a GT3 league that races Sunday nights, so I might try to do some of that, because GT3 or just GT cars is probably the best in the game. And I'll also continue to do Rainmaster. So next week, that starts today, will be at Spa, so maybe look for that in a few days. But rounding the final corner, coming in for a second place finish, right where I qualified. If only those battles lasted a little longer. Overall, pretty fun race and a very fun series. So here are the results for the GT3 Rainmaster at Watkins Glen. Gained 0.04 safety rating, now up at 2.33, and 53 I rating. So now I'm back to 2K. This really is the first time I've stayed above 2K. It's pretty nice. I was up a little higher, but that doesn't really matter. As long as I can just keep it up here. And the Rainmaster series is really easy to do that because 14 seconds behind, not great. Everyone else, especially when it's a 1200 strength field, and I was already 1900 going into the race. But that'll do it for this race and this video. I might have another one sometime soon, getting back into P Cup or something like that, but that's it.